can do all of page 1 if you want. Oh, side 1, I should say. Yeah, by all means.
Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Has the meeting been posted?
Yes.
All right, we're going to do the front page of the agenda. When your name is called, just step up to the podium, and then we'll have you introduce yourself after, okay?
Commission will now review applications for special one-day license applications for malt beverages and wine only, for special one-day license applications for all alcoholic beverages, and for special event permits for sound amplification. Starting with the beer and wine only, one day, Lisa Kuchar of Duville Senior Care for Friday, June 25, 2010, from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. The event is the Duville Summer Concert Kickoff Celebration at the Duville Park at 981 Varnum Avenue. Peter Crew of the Merrimack Repertory Theater for theatrical performances by the Merrimack Repertory Theater at Liberty Hall, 50 East Merrimack Street, for 19 dates, starting with this evening, April the 22nd, running through May 16th.
Is Peter here? Peter Crew? Okay, just go to the lectern right there. Thank you. Next.
For all alcoholic beverages, one day, Geronimo P. Silva of the Holy Ghost Society for events at Holy...
You missed one, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just one moment with Mr. Silva. Lambros Vutsis of the Gazebo Cafe Grill at the Gazebo Cafe Grill at 491 Dutton Street. I thought they only did that during council meetings.
Right, they do. Especially when poor Dick Howard tried to speak.
For Thursday, April 29th, 2010, from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. The event is the American Textile History Museum President's Dinner. And Geronimo P. Silva of the Holy Ghost Society for events at Holy Ghost Park at 65 Village Street. The Cancer Walk fundraiser for Saturday, April 24th, from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. The Peabody Wedding Reception for Saturday, May 8th, from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. Holy Ghost Sunday for Sunday, May 23rd, from 12 noon to 10 p.m. Holy Trinity Friday, May 28th, from 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. Holy Trinity for Saturday, May 29th, from 3 p.m. to 12 midnight. Holy Trinity on Sunday, May 30th, from 12 noon to 12 midnight. And Holy Trinity for Monday, May 31st, from 12 noon to 10 p.m. Also in conjunction with the event scheduled at the Holy Ghost Park particularly for the weekend of Holy Trinity. Geronimo Silva has filed for sound amplification for outdoor sound system for band and or disc jockey on the grounds of the Holy Ghost Park. Holy Ghost Sunday for Sunday, May 23rd. The amplification is permitted from 12 noon, would be permitted from 12 noon to 10 p.m. And for Holy Trinity Friday, May 28th, 6 p.m. to 12 midnight. Holy Trinity on Saturday, May 29th, would be 3 p.m. to 12 midnight. Holy Trinity for Sunday, May 30th, would be 12 noon to 10 p.m. And Holy Trinity for Monday, May 31st, would be 12 noon to 10 p.m.
Okay, I'd like you to step up to the mic and introduce yourself and who you represent.
Lisa Kuchar, Duville Senior Care.
Okay, Lisa. Next. Stay up there.
Peter Crew, Merrimack Repertory Theater.
Okay, Peter.
Labrador versus American Textile.
Okay.
Geronimo Silva with Holy Ghost.
Okay. How many of you have been before us before? Okay, so 2 and 2. Okay. It's very, very important that you understand that this license, if it's granted, is your license. It's not Duville Manor's license. It's not the Merrimack Theater license. It's your license. That means you have 100% control. If for any reason anything goes on, anything, certainly any kind of a disturbance, but anything goes on that you don't agree with, you just simply say, this is my license, and it's closed. Because believe me, when you do things, which we need folks like you to step up to the plate to do things, but when you do things and you volunteer, It's unfortunate, but we're in a society that thinks nothing. I went to a seminar last week with teenagers. They were talking about drinking. And they were talking about how many parents they'll go to a wedding or they'll go out to a party, and parents will say, wait a minute, I'll get you a sombrero. Or wait a minute, you can have a beer. You know, you're with us, you can have a beer, you're not driving. But it doesn't work that way. Because when little Johnny Jones falls down and breaks his head open, they're going to blame you, and they're going to say, you did this, not me. I'm not going to stand up and say, I gave my son or daughter a beer or a drink, and they got hurt. And I don't say that to scare you, but I do say it so you understand the magnitude of what you're doing. You're getting a liquor license, and you're representing yourself, okay? And so if you feel for any reason, you know, the people that go to the theater, let's go out to dinner, let's have a few pops. You know, they get to the theater. I know you're just serving beer and wine, right? Yeah. You know, they get to the theater, you know, they're already half gassed. They don't need another one. But you know what? If they have a drink and they walk outside that door, all the judge is going to care about is, where did you have your last drink? So here you gave somebody a drink or sold someone a drink that's been out all night long spending their money some other place, and for one lousy drink, you get blamed for it. It's definitely not a good system. Let me put it that way. But the responsibility of it is so important, you know. You know, gee, I don't want my boss to think I don't care. I don't want to think, you know, so I'm not going to say anything, but I'm going to say something. You bet your life. Okay? Both of you have been before us before. You're running on Holy Ghost Park. You've got a few 1 o'clocks here. You know, I shouldn't have to say it, but I don't want to see you back here. Okay? You still have the sound meter? Yes. You still check the sound, okay? You know, people out in the park, don't let them crank that music up on you, because it's going to crank Belvedere up, and they'll be in here talking to us, and we certainly don't need that, okay? So let's be ever watchful of that, all right? And the gazebo, that's all inside, is that correct? I mean, you've done that before. Do any of you have any questions at all? Anything? Okay?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I thought you were going to say something profound.
Oh, you said enough for all of us.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay? I hope you all make $1 million. I hope it's a great day for all of you. Just be watchful of the general public, unfortunately. Okay? Take care.
Commission will now take up an application by the Portuguese American Center, Inc., all alcoholic beverages club licensee at 59 Charles Street, for change of manager of record from Paul Cudino to Emmanuel S. Pius of Lowell. Members of the commission, if I may respectfully request you may consider a vote to go into executive session so that you may review a core report
Okay?
on the matter of Mr. Pius.
All right.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session.
I'll make a motion to go to executive session. It is, I have 9 past. We'll be back at,
Commissioner Bayless?
yes,
And Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Okay.
and we'll be back at 1:15.
Commissioner, I'll take up the matter of returning to a regular session. Commissioner Bayless?
Yes.
Commissioner Occasion?
Yes.
Portuguese American. How many times have you had to be, as the police department, have to respond there, or?
I'm not aware of any problems there recently.
No, okay. I'm not either. I've been by the place, or I've been there for a couple of events. You run a good, clean ship. It's a real nice club, real clean. I believe it's an asset to the neighborhood. I don't have it.
Have you ever managed the club before, or have you ever
I
managed anything?
I work a little bit at the bar before.
Okay,
I know how to
okay.
control the
So
people.
you're familiar with checking IDs?
Yeah, checking IDs. People drink too much, take the keys,
Right.
send them
And
home.
do people have to buzz in to get into your establishment?
Yeah, you gotta buzz it. Sometimes if the members forgot the keys,
Yeah,
you buzz them.
buzz, okay. All right. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good luck,
It's gotta,
Thank you.
okay?
right, it's gotta go to Boston.
So, Mr. Pius, what I do now is I'll send the application, a copy of which
Yeah,
I'll
the guy's
send
still
to the
the manager.
Alcohol Beverages
Yeah.
Control Commission for the ABC's review and approval. And once I get notice that you've been approved, then you become the manager of record. It may take several weeks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Just to take that one step further, you are not the manager of record until this comes back from Boston. If in the interim, whether it be the police department or the ABC goes in there to check, and they say to you, who's the manager? This other gentleman is still the manager. You are not the manager until you get your papers
Yeah,
back from
I
Boston.
want to start after I got my approval.
Okay,
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
you're welcome.
Commission will now open a hearing on the allegation of misconduct as charged by Arthur H. Ryan Jr., the Deputy Superintendent of Police, against all alcoholic beverages restaurant licensee Yung Loan Inc., doing business as Super Bowl Restaurant and Pub. Hong Min Pham is the manager of record for premises at 1733 Middlesex Street.
If you'd be kind enough to introduce yourself for the record,
I am Thomas Sanzoni, an attorney for Wong Long.
okay? I was, when you appeared before us before, you had your son with you.
Yes. He's here.
Yeah, where is he?
1 second. He's here.
Right. Remember, because I didn't think he was old enough. Okay. All right, introduce yourself, please.
My name is Hong Pham, or please call me Peter. I'm the manager at the Super Bowl restaurant.
Okay. Have you read the complaint?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay, do you want it read into the record?
It's not necessary.
Okay, I would ask Captain Webb if you'd give a brief overview of it, just for the people watching and just so that everybody knows where we are.
Mr. Chairman, on January 24th of this year, at 1:43 a.m., Lowell Police received a report of a man with a gun at the Super Bowl restaurant at 1733 Middlesex Street. Officer Moriarty was on patrol and responded to that call, and upon his arrival at the restaurant, he found approximately 200 people involved in a disturbance in the parking lot. The officer observed several people exiting the bar with cans of Heineken beer, and also observed that several people in the crowd were under 21 years of age. It required 4 Lowell police officers and officers from the University of Massachusetts at Lowell Police Department to restore order. Officer Moriarty entered the bar with Lieutenant Potvin after order was restored and found 75 to 100 people still in the bar at 1:54 a.m. Observed that the bartenders were still serving shots of beer over the bar and that there were approximately 30 cans of beer still on the bar. And Lieutenant Potvin formed the opinion that the bar was out of control and over capacity from everything that he had observed at the scene. Officer Moriarty and Lieutenant Potvin are here this afternoon to offer any testimony that you might like.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bayless, I have a plan here of the restaurant that I thought I might just share with you so we can explain our procedures and policies. If you'd like, I can
Okay,
deliver that to you.
you bring it up.
If it may help, it may not, but. Main entrance here, the only entrance.
Yep.
Your bar as you come in, and seating is around here. This is the kitchen area, and an exit here and an exit here on these
Okay.
locations. Okay, I'll explain this as we go on, and just for your moment.
Okay.
Again, I'm Thomas Anzoni. I'm the attorney for
Okay.
the owner. They've asked me to come here today because this family takes this matter very, very, very seriously, is very concerned, takes their obligations very seriously, and all the thoughts and ideas that were expressed here when they first were granted their license. This is a very unfortunate circumstances. They're obviously upset and embarrassed that they have to come back here before you, and they've asked me to express that to you, and also to, and they're here to speak. I have also one of the bouncers here, that head bouncer of the location, to answer any questions you might have as well. The procedures and policies that they've had in place from the very, very start of operation, and since they've had the liquor license, are very strict. They've since this incident being the only incident, as well as you know, that they've reinforced those policies and procedures with all of their employees. The document I gave you gives you an indication of the restaurant layout. The red, you'll see the red stars on there. It's kind of a very rough drawing, but those red stars represent where they position during the evening hours the bouncers, the people who are responsible for checking licenses, for ensuring that nobody enters the premises or exits the premises at the wrong location or with any alcohol. That evening, the officer who witnessed alcohol or beer cans on the bar, and addressing that issue, they've since stopped serving beer cans. They now pour everything into plastic cups. That might have been the reason why the officer may have seen somebody leaving the premises with a beer can. None of the employees saw that, but of course, if the officer saw that, then it had to happen. They do have a strict policy, and they are trained to check people as they're leaving. So if somebody had it in their coat that evening, it might have occurred. The reason there were beer cans that evening, it was from a private function that had some beer cans that they had ordered and left over, that was inventory that they were continuing to use. And they were on the bar at that evening because they had been collected, which is their procedure too, at 1:30, to start collecting all the cans and bottles, or if there are any, or cups, and put them on the bar for cleaning. And they were put there for that reason. They weren't full containers being served. They were there because the employees had put them there after collecting those cans.
So you're disagreeing I don't want to go too far.
Yeah.
The fact that they had leftover beer cans from another party,
Right.
I don't care how they had them. I don't care if Santa Claus left them.
No, I understand.
They had no business whatsoever having people walk out with it.
No.
Okay, I mean.
Right, of course.
Okay, so, that's simple enough, so you can make all the excuses for having them that you want, whether it's beer in a cup or a can or whatever, that's all right. I need to.
Absolutely.
All right, now, the officer states that he saw them pouring shots on the bar.
Absolutely.
Are you disputing that fact?
No.
Is that fact being disputed?
No.
Okay.
But I'd like to
The
just-
officer stated that in his report, that it was 1:43,
Yes.
and they were still pouring.
Yes.
Okay. You're not disputing that?
No.
Okay.
Mr. Commissioner, I just wanted to to make a correction. I believe he actually stated it was 1:54, and they were.
I'm sorry, 154.
We don't know the exact time,
No,
but we.
no, because,
yeah.
and I can understand that, and, you know, let me just interrupt you for a second, and, Jack, how many times has the police department been called to this facility?
I don't have an exact count how many times we have gone there, but it is becoming a trouble spot for us.
Okay, have either the officers present been involved with anything at the bar prior to this?
I believe Officer Moriarty would have some information for you.
Okay, could he get up and speak on that, just?
Can't we have Attorney Anzioni, is that it? Address the complaint?
That's, yeah, but he isn't, he's telling us
No,
why
he's,
the beer
no,
can-
right, and that's in the complaint, so I believe he has the right to explain. It says there were 30 cans of beer on the bar. That was what Officer Moriarty put in his report, and he's trying to explain to us why the cans were there. I think that's perfectly appropriate for
Oh,
this hearing.
as far as the cans being there, but.
Well, that's what he said. He didn't say anything about bringing them outside. He said there were 30.
Okay.
That's what you said, correct?
Yes, it is.
All
Yes.
right, okay, go ahead.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I don't mean to ramble
No,
on,
no,
but
but-
these details are somewhat important. All
right.
I mean, these people take this very seriously, so you know, please give them the opportunity to, you know, give these details out. They may seem irrelevant, but again, those cans were there because they had been collected for cleaning. They were not being served. That's why the beer cans were on that bar. Since this incident, they've stopped serving any beer cans at all. There was only one, I quickly stated why they had beer that night, the cans that night, but they're not using it. This will stop any possibility, in their opinion, anybody being able to remove any alcohol from the premises, because in a plastic cup, you can't really put it into a coat or hide it very easily because it'll spill. With a can, it can be done much more easily. They do have people trained, and these people, it is very important and it is strict. There is one exit for these people for the customers to leave, and at approximately 1 to 1:30, 2 employees, bouncers, are placed at the front exit, and they're both there to check, make sure nobody enters at that time, and make sure that nobody's removing alcohol from the premises. If alcohol was removed that evening, there is no explanation for that. There is no excuse for that. Nobody saw that happen, and if it did happen, it was a one-time event, and there is no explanation for it. It just is. It's impermissible. They know that, and they've taken every step they can to stop that. I've explained to you why those beer cans were on the bar that evening. If you would like, I can certainly go into a detail about the shots that you asked me about at 1:54 or whatever time that was. I will briefly tell you, they do not serve straight alcohol shots at that evening. This is a strict Jell-O shot that contains a lot of water and Jell-O and a very low level of alcohol. It doesn't mean that they can serve it after 2 o'clock. I'm expressing to you that they're not serving straight, shots, and they're very concerned about their customers drinking too much. They have a right to serve until 2 o'clock. They know that, and at 2 o'clock, that bar is supposed to be empty. This was not a mixed drink that would take 20 minutes, half an hour to drink. It's meant to be consumed within a minute or so. But it's a very low level of alcohol. That just giving you detail. I'm not telling you what's. Again, on that diagram I showed you, I'm showing you the red locations of where they have 4 bouncers that are paid, trained bouncers that are there to ensure that order is kept into that bar, that no one under 21 is served any alcohol, that nobody enters or leaves. And they all have walkie-talkie systems with microphones and earpieces so they can communicate with each other. They also have had this since the beginning, the policy of the bracelets, which are right here. One for anyone under 21 and one for anyone over 21 who can drink. That evening, I understand that there was a phone call made to the officer, to the police station, rather regarding a possibility of a gun. No gun that we know of was out on the premises, and I don't believe any was found, but we don't...
Can I just interrupt you? Who called? Did you guys call?
No, we don't know who called.
We don't know who called?
No.
Okay. Does the police know who called?
No, I don't know where the call
Okay.
came.
No. Okay, so in any case, that happened. Somebody called. There was none that we know of that were found. Had we known of any, we would have. My client would have immediately called the police, and they have a good rapport with the police as far as they're concerned. They consider them very important and very professional, and that they're very content with the fact that the police arrived at the scene that evening when they did that quickly and handled themselves very professionally. So there's no qualm with that. I just want you to understand that the concern here is clearly that alcohol was apparently brought out of the premises. That's what the concern is, the major concern that I can see. And I'm here to talk to you and to have you ask questions of the people who operate this place, and I've spoken to them many times, about what their policies and procedures are and how they know how careful they are about trying to prevent that. And there's no excuse if it did happen. And if it did happen, again, they didn't see it happen. And it could have been that maybe a can was concealed or something of that effect, but they consider that very important. I have... if you would like to see the diploma from Peter Pham from the School of New England Bartending and his certification of completion of those things, if you'd like to see those, and if you'd like to ask them any other questions, or again, I have someone here who operates as the head bouncer at the location, and he can express to you what his training is and his policies and procedures are, what he's been instructed to do. And again, I'd like to answer any other questions you might have after we hear from if you'd like to hear the officers or whatever.
Go ahead, please, this time. Now we get-
Yeah.
Officer Moriarty, if you could come up and just tell us what you observed. And in addition to that night, what your history has been with this establishment.
Good afternoon. My name is Dennis Moriarty for the Lowell Police Department. Been a sworn officer since 1989. The night in question, I was assigned to Car 6 on the late night shift. I received a call for a possible Asian boy, which would be a gang member with a handgun at the establishment. As I arrived, I saw a large crowd in the parking lot, approximately 200 people. There were a couple fights going on, a couple beer bottles being broken. This time I asked for other units to arrive. Officer Kennedy arrived, Lieutenant Potvin arrived, Officer Marshall arrived, and also a Lowell cruiser arrived. My main concern was emptying the parking lot because there were just too many people for us to try to effect an arrest. It would have been an extremely dangerous situation. The one individual that I can name for the record that I know that was underage was Ricky Sin. He was coming out of the establishment intoxicated. I later found out that they had a bracelet system. If you were under 21, you'd wear one bracelet, and if you were over 21, you wore another bracelet. After we got the crowd under control, we had people exit the parking lot. Lieutenant Potvin and myself entered the establishment. I asked the gentleman, this young man here, who was behind the bar, to produce a liquor license. At the corner of the bar, they had excess Jell-O shots that they were handing out to people as they were leaving, to get rid of them, I assume. The bar was in disarray. There were beer bottles all over the bar, and he pulled the license down. I copied the license. The lieutenant came in and said, this is a little out of control. This is excessive. The exact quote from the young man was, "We're trying to make some dough." I said, I think you have too many people in here. You should hire a police officer to work the detail. And at the time, I don't recall this gentleman being here on the security. There was a black male that I know that used to work at Mango Tango. He was the head bouncer that night. Since then, I've had a couple incidents where I've gone to the Super Bowl for another disturbance call. Matter of fact, I dealt with this gentleman on Sunday night. There was a shots fired call where we located a vehicle that had pulled into the parking lot and discharged 5 rounds. And in that night, I believe this gentleman was assaulted. He didn't want to pursue the matter. Once again, we had over 200 people in the parking lot. We had several fights. We had 2 females assaulted, and it was a very dangerous situation.
And how many people did you estimate were in the parking lot when you got there?
I would say 200.
200.
It's a very, as you pull up on Middlesex Street,
Yeah.
I always call it Jasper's. I don't know if you're familiar with the
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
It's an extremely large parking lot that goes down to the right towards the railroad tracks,
Right.
and it kind of turns out like an L.
Right.
And they congregate into the back of the lot, and it's definitely a problem.
And how many people were inside?
On the night in question?
Yeah, when you went in?
After we went in, basically, the crowd inside was cleared out. They had moved everybody out. We still had people cleaning up.
Yeah.
And I would probably agree with the attorney's explanation of the beers. Those were probably cleaned off tables and brought onto the bar to be wherever they store their cans. But it was in the exact time, I called that in for the dispatch. I asked car 6 to Lowell, could I have the exact time? And that's where they gave me 1:54.
And when you went in, they were still serving shots to?
As everyone walking out the door, they were giving out a
those
Jello
Jell-O
shot.
shots. Okay. And just, they have a liquor license, they have a outdoor license or any, or is it just the establishment? That's what,
There is the deck, which is the entranceway, and that allows for alcohol, in season, of course.
right, so that on a night in January, I wouldn't think there's people drinking outside.
No, that wasn't the case. It wasn't a patio situation.
The thing that troubled, and maybe Mr. Attorney Anzioni could, yeah?
If I could just clear up something, just with a couple
Yeah,
of questions,
yeah,
to the officer. Did you see anybody carrying alcohol out of the establishment when you
Yes,
came
I
to the
did.
parking lot? Could you just describe to the commission what you saw?
As you approach the property, the door's up in the left-hand corner of the property. There's a lot of cars parked there. Like I said, there was well over 150. I estimated 200 people in the parking lot. So people are coming out. It was just basically like they were opening the doors and everybody just all came out at once. And a couple of these individuals had beer cans, and they were drinking the beer cans in the parking lot. In the same exact thing just happened Sunday night, where they go to the end of the parking lot, and if they had a beer bottle, they throw it and break it in the parking lot, and this gentleman could probably back up that statement, because it just happened Sunday night.
And when you saw the beer cans, were they secreted in a pocket when you saw the people
No,
with the beer
they were
cans?
right in the hands, and like I said, in a regular situation like this, this would cause us to have the discretion to either make an arrest to take the beer off them or something of that nature. The crowd was so big, in my determination as a police officer, it would have been a dangerous situation for us to try to effect an arrest on a couple of these kids. So we cleared the crowd.
And Attorney Anzio, do you know what the occupancy of the establishment is?
165 inside and 100 on the deck.
Right, and it was January, so I'm assuming people weren't hanging out on the deck. Do you guys have heaters on the deck? But there wasn't 100 people smoking, were there?
There were not.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay. I just had one question. And I'm trying to figure this thing out. So there was a couple of fights in the parking lot. Do you think that, did this gentleman that you said was the door person that night, did he go outside to the fight? I mean, you know how, you're a police officer, obviously you've seen these things before. I'm just thinking that, my thinking is, somebody hollered, there's a fight outside. The doorman went out to see, maybe to stop it, I don't know, I'm asking. And people just ran out to see what's going on, and I don't know that is or isn't.
There were several different disturbances. This gentleman, unfortunately, I can't think of his name right now, but I know they'd know his name. He's a large black male, and like I said, I knew him. He used to work at the Mango Tango. He was just, at that point, our whole concern was just get everyone out of the parking lot. We basically stopped traffic and had everyone.
So you don't remember when you arrived there whether he was on the door or out in the parking lot?
No, I do not,
You don't?
Mr. Bayless, no.
That'd make a big, okay. No, it's no problem. Okay, I'm sorry.
There were not more than 165 customers inside of the restaurant. They have a counting system that has been in place. They have two people on a table at the entrance, and they count. They have a hand counter, and they have someone with a notebook who notes down how many people enter the premises. They are required to stand in line one by one to get into the property. How the officer estimates that there were over 200 people in the parking lot, there's no way to know if those people, if there were over 200 in the parking lot, they may have not been from the restaurant, or there's no way for them to control how many people park in there and use that parking lot. Also, the officers stated that there were beer bottles in the restaurant. There are no beer bottles, and there could not have been beer bottles. They don't have beer bottles, and they never have. They used cans that evening and plastic. There's never been any glass or beer bottles. Those beer bottles in the parking lot were obviously people had to take them in their cars to that parking lot. So they were not taken from the facility, nor were there any in the facility at that time. There were no arrests made that evening. So it occurs to me that it is somewhat unusual that somebody under 21 who was named is intoxicated but is not arrested, nor were there any citation made for the restaurant to have served anyone under 21.
Yeah,
I think Officer Moriarty.
I think he explained that. A little common sense says you've got 1, 2 policemen there trying to do what's right, and you've got 150 or 200 people that are out of control. God bless them that they got rid of the people without anybody getting hurt. I think that I could be wrong, but I would have thought that to try to arrest someone, then the next guy gets his beer muscle up, and the next guy, and it's like, they did the right thing. I'm not going to have you sit here and say they didn't do their job because
No,
they didn't arrest them.
I'm not saying that, Mr. Bayless. I'm
That's
trying to
what you're
represent my
saying.
client.
Why weren't they arrested?
No, I'm trying to
They weren't
represent my...
arrested because the best choice was made.
I'm trying to represent my client, Mr. Bayless.
And I understand that, and I can appreciate that, but I think also you have to understand that obviously something's not jiving right.
No, there was a problem, otherwise the police wouldn't have been called. The police, in my view, in my client's view, are very professional and excellent at their job. And we're not here to tell you that they don't do their job right, but everybody is entitled to make mistakes, including police officers. And there is a question of judgment here. And you're bringing up some very serious allegations to my client in their business, and they're very concerned about it, and they want to explain it, and they want their side to be known. And we've taken a lot of time to go through what their policies and procedures are so that that they can sit here and talk to you and say they know what these issues are. They are here to try to prevent these. They want to run a business and make a living. And I'm here to tell you that there is no glass in that restaurant, and that is a question of...
Well, it's neither here or there if there's a glass. We won't worry about the glass.
Yeah, we won't, but I don't think he said it was in. I said, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. People bring booze in their car, drive up, sit in the parking lot. We try to tell people that are in the business, we constantly try to tell them. You know, the kids will go out, they grab a six-pack, they'll slug it down before they go in the place. Unfortunately, once they get inside there, if they get in trouble, the only thing that the court's interested in is where'd you have your last drink. And that's something that we all realize and understand that you've got to be aware of. I'm trying to give you the benefit of that. I can take you to 5 places around here, Saturday morning and show you broken beer bottles in the parking lot. One particular restaurant that I stopped at one time and said, you should clean these up. The manager said to me, I'm not going to clean that up. That's not my beer. We don't even sell that kind of beer. But you know what? If the Alcoholic Beverage Commission came by and saw that there, you'd clean it up quick because you're responsible for it. It's your parking lot, all right? So I'm giving you the benefit of that. Yep. I think the officer made a good observation. And I'm not saying that he's right and you're wrong or he's wrong and you're right. I'm just saying that we have instances where they get a crowd mentality. And I think that a police officer sometimes has to make a judgment call. What's the best way to handle this? Hopefully, the fewest citizens, and more importantly, the fewest police officers get hurt. And I think they did a good job at that. If there was that many people there, I think they did a really good job at least breaking that up.
Absolutely.
And from what I understand, you know, your doorman, or the guy, did not, you know, give them a hard time, or at least they didn't say that.
Right.
So that stands in a very good. But also you have to say, you know, when Captain Webb's talking about it, you know, and we've talked about this at the meetings before, you know, the police stop in, something's going wrong, they say to the business, you know, you should start watching this, but I'm not gonna, but they don't write it up. It's like a speeding ticket. I'm gonna give you a warning. How many warnings do you want? But the problem is that most of us don't look at it like, you know, gee, I was lucky, I got a warning. I could have wrapped this thing around a telephone pole, but I didn't. I got a warning. You know, same thing with a liquor establishment. They stop in, they give you a warning, they try to explain to you something's wrong. It's a warning, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pay attention to it. You need to move on to the, you know, obviously, they need somebody in the parking lot. They need a, you know, you've got, what'd you say, four? Four people?
Actually, at 1:30 in the evening, two of the four go out to the parking lot. That's been their policy and procedure, and they help direct traffic, so they send.
All right, where were they that night?
They would have been in the parking lot.
They didn't see the fight?
I don't know. I haven't spoken to those, to them, but I'm just
Okay,
letting you know what,
I'm-
they may have seen the fight. I don't know. I haven't spoken, to them, but their procedure is, out of the four, two go to the parking lot and help the traffic, tell people to get in their cars and leave. That's what they're doing. They may have seen the fight. I don't know what fight. I don't really know much about the fight, or myself, but I'm here really to address the main, tell you what their policy procedures are, that they're very strict about it. They understand the allegations here, and they've made extra effort to review those policies and procedures with their employees. They are there to follow the guidelines. They're not there to play games with you or the ABC or anybody, or their license or their business. They know what they're supposed to do, and they are going to follow those rules. And we're just, you know, asking you for, you know, for your understanding at this particular time, and that they believe me, plan on not being here again. So.
And I just want to clarify a couple of the issues. The complaint that's been brought, as the commission knows, is for allowing alcoholic beverages to be removed from the licensed premises. And as Officer Moriarty testified, the cans of Heineken being removed from the premises. And the disturbance or disorder on the premises. And I don't think there's any allegation that it didn't happen, that there wasn't a large disturbance. Otherwise, why would the police officer? That I don't want to get off track on issues that aren't really pertinent, but I do think there's the two serious issues, and there's been testimony from the police officers and in the police reports regarding, you know, alcoholic beverages
Yeah,
on
I
the
agree with
premises.
Brian, though. And like I said, the glass issue is it's incidental to it. They brought it up, but I mean, the glass issue doesn't impress me because I see what happens at other restaurants. That you know, so.
I guess my concern is, from hearing all this testimony, is it sounds from the testimony of the police that this establishment is getting a bad name. There have been numerous complaints. The officers have had to attend the Super Bowl. And when you get that reputation, you draw a bad crowd. The fact that there was even a call that there was a weapon at the establishment is not a good sign whatsoever. It means you're not doing your job. That Mango Tango, that I don't know if this gentleman worked, but you said the other bouncer did, they had that reputation, and they cleaned it up because they got people patted down, going in and out, and took control of the building. Maybe you have to do that. Maybe that's what has to be done, that this building has to be taken control of. And again, they said there was another weapons this past weekend there. So obviously, you're attracting the wrong crowd, and you can't run an establishment when you're
Ryan, if I could just
attracting them.
interrupt just
Well,
one
just
second.
let me
Okay,
finish.
yep,
I did not
yep.
interrupt you when you spoke, so
right.
please don't interrupt me. The other thing that I have an issue with is you constantly referring to these policies and procedures, but they didn't seem to work that night, and this is what's in front of us, is that night. And you can say you have policy and procedures, you can say you have these checks and balances, but if it doesn't work when it counts, which was this night, then you're in trouble. Now,
They do have a system when people enter the premises, and they are checked. They are patted down. So there was no gun inside that restaurant. If a gun was brought to that parking lot, which is of course extremely serious, we all know that. You can't blame my client for that, if that was brought to that parking lot. To sit here and to put the blame on them and to take action on their license because of that, in my view, is just not reasonable. There was no gun in that restaurant. They have a procedure and they follow it. There's one entrance. People are checked when they come in that door, and they're made to stand in one by one. I'm not saying that you're not right, though. If you have an issue, if police have to be called, and there's an issue, and there is some sort of problem with that, because your premise, your place of business is becoming known as a place where there's rowdy activity, you need to do something. There's no question. You're absolutely right, and I think they hear that, and I will discuss that with them, and I think they'd be happy to discuss. There's absolutely no doubt about that. You are right, and I can't argue that, and I think there's got to be some action taken on that. But the policies and procedures that I'm talking about are what happened in the restaurant that evening. There was nothing that happened inside the restaurant that was of actionable item or a problem that was created that they could have stopped, that I believe they could have prevented that happened inside that restaurant. I just tried to give you an understanding of how they operate. And they employ those 4 people as well as the other employees in that place, and they're all there to watch, make sure nobody gets served and follow all the guidelines. But as far as the reputation issue, there's no doubt about it. If police are being called more than once, there's something that has to be done to correct that, whether you've got to make it even worse for people to get in the door, or make people hire an officer in the parking lot. That, you're right.
well, I guess my comments there were general comments specifically to this complaint. The first thing is that at 1:43 a.m. there's 200 people in the parking lot. I think that's pushing it a little bit, considering closing time is 2 o'clock, and we encourage people to start escorting people out of the building prior to that. The other observation that bothers me is, Officer Moriarty's a police officer 21 years. I don't think he'd come in and make stuff up, that they're just handing out these Jell-O shots. They may not be fully potent shots, but they're handing out this item as people are walking out. I don't think that's correct. Also, the number of people that are on the premises really concerned me, and that they were allowed to take beverages out. We don't know how many people had taken them out, but there was testimony from the officer that beer cans were taken out of the premises. The same cans that were on the bar, the Heineken cans. And also, allowing a disturbance. There was a disturbance at the property. You guys have as much as admitted that. I think what you and your clients have to do is get in touch with the Lowell Police Department and figure out the way to make this establishment, a little tighter on security. And if there's any issues at all, or if it's getting out of control at all, if there's too many people, you call the police directly. That's, policemen, we pay our taxes, so they'll protect us. And, you know, you're a business owner, you've made an investment in the city, and the police are there to help you out when necessary. So if anything happens in the establishment, if you feel it getting out of control, you call the police, they're gonna come and help you. That's it. That's what I did.
Well, there's an ordinance in the city that you call. The moment there's a disturbance in your place, you call the police. And you know, just from the testimony, I find it hard to believe that, you know, this thing didn't have an argument that spilt outdoors. But I'm very familiar with this place. One of the problems that I see that you have is that your parking lot goes around in an L shape and goes behind the building, okay? Which you've got, you know, a doorman or at the front door here, but there's nobody out in the back here. Between this and the patio, which part of the patio being part of your licensed premises, you know, you get a crowd outside. It's nothing to pass a drink over it's not a, you know, floor-to-ceiling patio. So the thing there is that I think Brian put it very, very well. We've seen this type of thing happen in the past. That's why I brought up about getting a warning and whatnot, because sometimes, you know, you get a warning, you just don't take it serious enough. And so it just kind of progressively. And what happens here is the clientele that you are attracting, you know, up front might not be the worst people in the world, but they get away with something. And so then the next week they try to get away with a little more. And then it gets to a point, okay? And we certainly, you know, sitting here do not want to see this end up in a situation that, you know, a police officer gets hurt or one of the people that work there get hurt. You know, that's the end of the last of the Mohegans. I know what you're saying. I think I'm kind of old, but I remember what Jell-O shots were, okay? You know, it depends on who makes them, how strong they are. Let's leave it at that. But I don't imagine, you know, giving out Jell-O shots would be that mild. Let's just put it that way and forget about it, okay? Give me a second. What do you think?
Well, I'll make a motion that we find that there was a violation, roll back the hours for 1 week, and we'll hold that in abeyance for 6 months.
You're gonna roll them back for 7 days, but you're gonna
Hold it in abeyance for
hold
6
it in
months.
abeyance. I'll second it. I'll second the motion. All in favor, say yes.
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 Okay, so may I just interject, if I might, just in terms of
Yeah.
the motion to find in violation, roll back hours. Do you want to specify what time frame as far as rollback is concerned? I mean, you have the option between 11 PM to 2 AM. 2 AM is the closing hour?
11 PM.
11 PM?
Yep.
Okay. And as far as the violation, is it all of the allegations as far as
Yes.
disturbance?
Yes.
Not notifying the Lowell police?
We don't know that we keep,
Well,
that's not,
that was what the allegations, that was what was reported in the
Yeah.
notice of hearing. And the other matter to do with the allowing patrons to remove alcohol from the premises. Okay, and so this is all subject to appeal to the Alcohol Beverages Control Commission upon written, if you see to the written notice of this decision, you could have the right within 5 days to appeal that decision to the ABCC.
And you gotta make your client understand that, you know, if we get another complaint, if this thing goes on and goes from bad to worse, he's gonna serve his time.
I mean, I think he got a break today because nothing's happening to them right now. I think we're being pretty lenient. I mean, they're walking out of here and they get to continue with their license. So, but you've been put on notice that you need to clean up the place.
Do you have any questions about it?
Okay, you're reducing the hours for 7 days, is that?
I'm sorry?
You're reducing the hours for 7 days,
But it's
been
suspended.
Okay.
It's held in abeyance for
Gonna,
6 months.
for the next 6 months,
provided there's no other incident.
Right.
provided there's no other issues.
Thank you,
Okay?
thank you. I will communicate all those thoughts to my client very respectfully.
You want this map back?
Mr. Commissioner, I have that's the conclusion of the agenda. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for May the 6th, 2010, at 3 o'clock in the City Council chamber, at which time there should be 2 hearings scheduled for application for original license for 74 Merrimack Street. There'll be a legal notice in tomorrow's paper on that, as well as licensee of record, Garcia Brogan, is looking to have an outside cafe at 131 Middlesex Street.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Seconded.
Second, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes.